Well, good evening, YouTube friends everywhere. I think we have some weird lighting again. I think that will kind of take care of itself once. Maybe that helps a little bit. I don't know. No, it's still weird lighting. Um, I think that'll kind of take care of itself once the sun goes down a little bit. But hopefully you can see well enough. It's hard for me to see because all I have is a light right there where that image is. But that reminds me, um, I need to do this and mute that thing. And I wanted to start a monitor over here. Maybe. Okay. There we go. Yeah. So that's not great lighting. Sorry about that. I may have to add some lights in here just so that we can deal with this part of the day a little bit better. It's tough because these lights are bright, and you wouldn't know it by that image. But when I'm looking at these screens, they really inhibit my ability to see very well. But I've got the log kind of centered. I've got the script directly above that, and I think I can figure this thing out. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So we're still having an issue too with the live stream being interrupted from OBS Studio, and it's really strange because I've not been able to reproduce this in testing, but it happened again last week during the net, and it's bizarre that it happens the way that it does, and I'm not able when I go and play with this thing outside of broadcast time, I can't make it happen. So Bobby will let me know if it happens, and I will endeavor to very quickly recover. It's just a mouse click to get it back, typically, if it's the way that it usually fails. But we've also had a couple of times where we've made it all the way through without a hiccup, and that's what we're hoping for this evening. So I thought it was a fat finger issue on my part, but I can't reproduce that. I can't make it happen again on this little keypad that I used to switch the scenes. So I don't know. I don't know why it's doing what it's doing. But it's time to begin. So let's go ahead and do that. We have 29 check-ins for our early bird check-ins. Now last week we had 32 and we ended up with 44. So let's see what happens this time. I want to make one quick little adjustment right here. And let's see, I need to do that. Oh, people are getting nervous because they don't hear anything on the air. They think that something happened to the net controller, and he's just late and by 44 seconds. And, once you get this late, there's no reason to worry about it. You may as well make it a full minute. So we get 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, full minute right here. Good evening, and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. I'll be working off the flagship 675 repeater this evening, and we are linked in with the following machines: Somerville, Lookout Mountain, Pine Log, Noonan, McDonough, Columbus, Crawford, Moreland, Jersey, Zebulon, and the Zello VoIP service. Tonight our RF coverage is approximately 31,000 square miles, but because of the magic of the internet, we are worldwide, baby. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone, mostly you folks that are listening this evening, who've made the North Georgia GMRS the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. You guys are awesome that way. Net control tonight is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514. My name is Justin, and I am located at Studio B here in Woodstock, Georgia. On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we'd like to hear about. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. Once the floor is open, it is permissible to address other members of the net by their name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. Let me break. When signing in, please speak slowly and clearly as you give your call sign, your tactical unit number, your name, and your location. At this time, I'll begin taking check-ins. We already have a number of check-ins, and I'll go through and acknowledge those first, and then we'll go to our VoIP check-in. So let me go ahead and start acknowledging once again our early bird check-ins, beginning with Atlanta 516, Ray in Canton. Thank you, Ray. Atlanta 285, CV Smith in Murrayville is in and out with us this evening. Atlanta 434, Ron is in North Cumming. Thank you, Ron, for checking in. We have Chattanooga 69, Ronnie in Chattanooga is in and out. We have Atlanta 555 and Atlanta 554, Dave and Cherie in Amicalola Falls with a ribeye on the grill. Probably by now they are enjoying that ribeye. So thank you, Dave and Cherie, for checking in and out this evening. Next on my list is Atlanta 344, Damon in Murrayville. And I have Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville. Next, I have Atlanta 292, Derek in Rockmart. I have Atlanta 699, Mike in Sugar Hill. And I have Atlanta 698, Beth by relay in Sugar Hill, checking in and out. Also, I have Atlanta 550, Steve in Talking Rock. Thank you, Steve, for checking in this evening. We have McDonough 22, Tim in Stockbridge. We have Atlanta 308, Dan in Marietta. We have Atlanta 138, Robert at band practice in Auburn, checking in and out with us this evening. Thank you, Robert, for checking in. I also have Atlanta 417, also in Auburn, checking in tonight. We have Atlanta 644, Sean in Alpharetta, in and out. We have Atlanta 948, Gary in Woodstock, in and out. We have Atlanta 286, Lynn in Murrayville, in and out by relay from CV. Thank you, CV, for that relay. We have Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen. Thank you, Greg, for checking in and letting us know that all is well with you. Appreciate that. We have Atlanta 180, Mike in Cherry Log, who may be asleep by the time we call on him. So we've got him in the log as in and out. We have Atlanta 420, William in Roswell, checking in with us this evening. And we have, what do we have? We have Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County, checking in on his base from the swamps of Mud Duck. And thank you, Bobby, for checking in with us this evening. We have Atlanta 104, David in Rockmart. And we are hoping to hear from Lisa, also in Rockmart. We have Noonan 29, an early bird check-in first from Tyrone. Thank you, Marty, for checking in with us. And we have Atlanta 538, Rob in Dawsonville, checking in and out. And we have Atlanta 560, McCoy in Cedartown, checking in and out. So with that, we're going to go ahead and accept any check-ins from the VoIP Zello service. Anyone wishing to check in through Zello, please call Net Control now.
RMC 853, Atlanta 252, Shad from Emerson, Georgia, checking in.
All right, Net Control is acknowledging Atlanta 252, Shad from Emerson. Shad, is Cynthia going to check in with us this evening?
I believe so. She had to run a Wally World real quick.
All right. Well, we'll look for an opportunity to get her checked in here in just a little while. Thank you for that. Net Control is going to go ahead and move on. And, anybody wishing to check in on Zello is welcome to at any time. It just gets a little tougher when we don't make those big windows for that push-to-talk button to become available. At this time, Net Control will take check-ins from any guests, visitors, or new users. This is anyone who is not a member but would like to check in. And also, we are taking check-ins from any youth members 18 and under. Please call Net Control now.
This is WRMH 246, Atlanta 313, trying to check in.
All right, Atlanta 313, Jason in Rome. Is that correct?
Sir, that is correct.
All right, Jason, we've got you here in the log, and looking forward to catching up with you here in just a little bit. Jason, is this your first check-in? I don't remember that 313 number.
Learn how to operate it. I'm new at this, but they from all the members, I'm starting to learn how to do it. Thank you, but yes, it is.
Fantastic, great to hear it, Jason. And yeah, I'm new at this too, so we'll figure it out together. And one way or another, if I do it wrong, somebody's sure to let me know. They do that all the time. They're all the time letting me know what I've done wrong. So it's all good, Jason. It's all constructive. It's all constructive criticism, I think. So, but welcome to the group. I think you're going to have a good time, and we're glad to have you as a new member. Do we have any other youth check-ins, guests, visitors? Please call on that control now. Okay, so with that little bit of silence, I'm going to go ahead and open this up to any flagship 675 machine users. Anyone wishing to check in from the flagship machine, please call on that control now.
This is EC529. I don't know if this is a ship or not, but I thought I'd check in and out. Thank you.
Okay, we had a double there. I did hear Chattanooga 58, Bill from Chattanooga checking in and out. It's great to hear from you, Bill, and looking forward to more adventures in rocketry and space the next time you and I have a chance to talk. Someone else was trying to check in there and got stepped on, so if that station can come back, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, Justin, this is Atlanta 360, WRFX 638. Chris, down in Atlanta, in and out. Thanks.
Okay, Atlanta 360, all the way around. Chris in Atlanta. That's probably not as funny a joke outside of my mind as it is inside. But, you know, I have to make mention because I was referring to Atlanta 180 as the turnaround guy, you know, because 180, turnaround, 360, all the way around. Never mind. It's funny to me. I guess that's all that really matters. So, thank you, Chris, for checking in from Atlanta. I appreciate that. You have a great sounding radio at that location. So love to hear you on the air. Got you in the log. Any additional check-ins from the flagship machine? Net control standing by.
This is Atlanta 780, WQUB 439, Houston, Outer Springs.
This is WRCV 257, Atlanta 76, David in Duluth, Georgia.
This is Atlanta 57, WQZC 82, Andrew in Holly Springs.
This is WRC 342, Hank in Marietta.
Okay. Let me look last week's real quick. 124. All right. Let me go ahead and acknowledge what I have here. Sorry it took me a moment to complete everything. But I have Atlanta 780 Houston, who I began to enter into the log as being in Austell, just as he mentioned the words Powder Springs. So I had to backspace all of that and then retype Powder Springs. When I thought I was ahead, I was behind. But that left me to Atlanta 7-6, David in Duluth. Thank you, David, for checking in this evening. Great to hear from you. And right after David, I heard Atlanta 5-7, Andrew in Holly Springs. Looking forward to hearing of your, I can't imagine Andrew having any kind of service nightmare stories in the industry that he works in, but I think we can hear the other perspective from Andrew, and that should be really cool to hear. And I also have Atlanta 124 Hank in Marietta. It was great to meet you the other day, Hank, and looking forward to chatting with you here in just a little while. So let's go ahead and open this up to any repeater anywhere. Anyone wishing to check into the North Georgia GMRS net, please call net control now. All right, I had a really tough copy on that, but I believe what I have is Atlanta 530, and that would be DR in Logansville. Is that correct?
Roger that, Justin.
All right, fantastic. Okay, Atlanta 530 DR in Logansville. We're going to have a tough time hearing you when it's your turn to talk, but we're going to give it a shot. And just when it does come your turn, just ask that you would try to talk nice and loud into that radio and see if we can get you to modulate over the noise. And so just bear that in mind when your turn comes around. Do we have any other check-ins for North Georgia GMRS? Net Control standing by. Okay, I heard a little bit of noise in there, but I'm not sure what that was. And we'll have an opportunity for late check-ins here in just a little while. So if you didn't get in, don't worry. We definitely want to hear from all of you, and we're looking forward to catching up with some late check-ins here in just a little bit. Before we get started, I wanted to talk briefly. Someone has made mention of the fact that there's been some Facebook activity about these plates or placards or whatever you want to call them. Someone photographed the plate that's on the front of 947's Jeep. There's a matching one on the front of the F-150, and I had those made probably 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that. Those were made some time ago, and they were expensive. I think they were $20-ish a piece. So I've got right at $40 in the pair of them, with shipping and everything. So with that in mind, we have some members that have the capacity to manufacture those kind of things: hats, T-shirts, glassware, drinking stuff, and license plates. So I've invited those members to publish their pricing and their merchandise availability on our Facebook page. Now, I don't want to flood our page with ads from these things, all the time, but I definitely want to make this stuff available. Now, I've looked into having this stuff made for us in the past, and the problem with it is it requires typically a significant investment in materials. And like, for instance, we had bumper stickers and some window decals, and in the two, I think they were $3 a piece or $4 a piece, and out of that it would cost me whatever stamps cost. I don't even know what stamps cost anymore. But I would have to put a stamp on it. I'd have to buy an envelope, which the cheapest envelopes I found were little thank you cards with an envelope, and that made a nice rigid enclosure to put the sticker in, and then I could mail it that way. Let me break. So anyway, to make a long story short, I spent probably around $40 on having some stickers made, and made them available to the membership as a fundraiser experiment for purchase. And we made, I think, around $55 out of that. So, and that, for all of the time and effort and keeping track of orders, and the orders would come into Gary, and then he would have to forward that to information to me, and then I would have to prepare a label and an envelope and whatever product that person ordered. It was very convoluted. It wasn't very efficient. It wasn't very graceful, and it consumed a lot of time. So we've kind of made the decision that when it comes to merchandise, Gary and I, we're not really going to be able to provide that for the membership. Let me break one more time. Oh, sorry about that, YouTube. I have my apologies. I'm working on it though. So as I was saying, we're just not going to be able to satisfy that demand for merchandise. But it turns out we have members within the group who do that stuff, either as a business or a hobby, and I think that it's a perfect situation to just have our members, if you want a decal made, or if you want a T-shirt made or a hat, I've given both of those members what I use for graphics when I send in for decals or things of that nature. I've given them my files and some instructions on how we want our logo to be used. So with that in mind, feel free to contact those members on Facebook in whatever manner they have indicated, and place orders directly with them. Now we're not taking a cut of the pie, and both of these vendors are pricing things at a very, very affordable pricing. I think T-shirts are $20. I think license plates are $10-ish, give or take. You would have to look at it again to know. But I mean, really good pricing on the products that I've seen offered. So they have some options in terms of what you want to do, and specifically in a logo and a T-shirt or a license plate or whatever you want to get. But this stuff is available through our members, and you'll be making arrangements directly with them. North Georgia GMRS is only providing a logo for them to use under permission. So with that in mind, feel free to reach out to those people, and that would be Randy Digby and Stacy Byers are two vendors for North Georgia GMRS merchandise. And I encourage anyone who's looking for that kind of product to go ahead and seek it out there. Let me go ahead and break real quick.
Net Control, Atlanta 285.
Atlanta 285 with a comment. Go ahead.
Roger. Very good explanation. Been looking for some of that stuff, and I think you got the right idea. Atlanta 285 clear.
Well, thank you, CV. And yeah, as I said, I've wanted, I've generated some of this kind of stuff myself, and it's been funded by me as stickers that I can hand out and kind of do some recruiting and stuff. And it's been fun. Gary's also paid for. North Georgia GMRS has also paid for the wooden nickels that I give out sometimes, and the postcards, and some of the stickers and some of the magnets and stuff. So, but between the two of us, most of that stuff has come out of either Gary's pocket or mine, and so I like this because you're not going to be waiting for me to get around to doing something in terms of putting a sticker or a token in an envelope. That'll be with people that are better geared towards accomplishing those kind of tasks, because they're doing it regularly anyway. So I hope that that ends up being a positive thing for the membership and satisfies some of that need. I saw Stacy had posted a picture of a window decal on the back of, I guess, a pickup truck. I'm not entirely sure. It looked great. I thought it was great. So I think that folks that are looking for that sort of thing, we have a great vendor to provide those things for us now. So the other thing I wanted to talk about real quickly, let me break again.
Atlanta 946, while you're breaking, I had a decal made up to go on the back of my truck, and was not satisfied with it, but I would be glad to contact Stacy. Would love to advertise North Georgia GMRS on my truck, so I would encourage everyone to check out the two vendors and advertise North Georgia GMRS, Atlanta 285, WRKN 234. I'll be clear.
And a perfect break for me to give my radio a rest in my thumb and all of that. So good stuff. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, thanks for that, CV. The other thing I wanted to mention was we had a great time Saturday at the barbecue there in Austell, there at Wallace Barbecue. We had, I believe it was 31 people show up for that gathering. We had a couple show up that weren't even members yet. They had joined a Facebook page and had seen communications there, and became aware of the gathering because of that, and they showed up and have now become members. So that's very cool stuff, and excited to have them along on this little joyride of North Georgia GMRS. It's just a lot of fun. So and it was great finally after all this time. Being able to spend time with radio friends and put faces to names, met a lot of people for the first time and met a lot of people again. And in both instances, it was a very nice occasion. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and kick this thing into gear, and let's hear your stories about service nightmares. Have you had an instance like I have had recently where just about everything that could be miscommunicated about the work on my truck was miscommunicated and left me feeling very aggravated about cupping on my tires, which it turns out after meeting with my tire dealer, a Discount Tire, I had one of the technicians come out and ask him about cupping, and his explanation was that my tires aren't cupped, they are feathered. And without me even telling him what the backstory was, he had commented immediately that this is a result of bad shocks or struts. And okay, so that makes me feel like maybe my shop didn't do me a bad turn. Maybe it is all on the up and up, because that is indeed what they recommended with shops. So the problem here is communication and terminology. What they were calling cupping, the tire dealers call feathering. And what I understood cupping to be in tire wear was entirely different than what they showed me, or what is apparent on my truck. So that maybe the nightmare wasn't as bad as it seemed like it was yesterday, but I was pretty stressed out about the whole thing yesterday. And on top of everything else, let me break here real quick. On top of everything else, they called me to tell me that the truck was ready, and so I made arrangements for a ride over there. It's just right around the corner. It's a 10-minute walk from here. I know that because I had to walk it. So I had Julie drop me off when she was here for lunch on her way back to work. I had her just drop me off and take off. I go inside and I pay the bill, and the lady behind the counter is looking for my keys, and she comes back with a set of keys that's a lot like mine, but it's got a different number on it, and they're not my keys. And so she disappears, and literally, I didn't see her again. She disappeared. A manager came out and says, "Hey, your truck got towed." And I'm thinking, all right, this is not a funny joke. I'm not amused, not even a little bit. But turns out, literally, my truck got towed. There was someone who had a truck there that had a transmission problem, and they called a wrecker to come get their truck, and they described the truck to the wrecker company as a pickup truck with a lumber rack on it. Well, it was a service body truck. It's a work truck. Mine's just a regular pickup truck with a ladder rack on it. But apparently the wrecker driver saw my truck and said, well, it must be that, and took off with it. Let me break. So that was my most recent service nightmare, and holy cow, it was a lot of stress, a lot of money involved, money I wasn't really prepared to spend, but you know, I guess that's what it's for, is for stuff like that. So we dug into and got it covered, but you know, I just hate doing that. So now we gotta build the pile back up again, and it just you know, it just seems like whenever you get a little bit put back, something like this happens, and it's gone. But Ray, Atlanta 516 in Canton, do you have any service horror stories or nightmares you'd like to share with the group? Gonna have to wake Ray up. Atlanta 516, did I put you to sleep out there? All right. Well, I think maybe Ray is in and out, or he's bored with my rant and he's drifted off to sleep. And I hope that he has a nice nap. And we'll look forward to catching up with Ray next time. For now, I'm going to show him in and out in our log and move on next to Atlanta 285, CV Smith in Murrayville. CV didn't know if he was going to be available or not, but it seems like maybe he is. Let's see if CV has any service nightmare stories he'd like to share with the group.
Net Control, this is Atlanta 285, WRKN 234, CV Smith in Murrayville. I have so many service stories to share, I'm not going to try to share them. This will get bad. You're doing a great job, Justin. I'll clear out. Atlanta 285, WRKN 234. We'll be monitoring. Oh.
All right, CV. And yeah, I completely get it, because I've got a lot more stories I could tell, too. And, you know, when you've been around the block as many times as we have, you invariably encounter situations where you're very, very pleased with the service that some folks provide, and you're very, very displeased with the service that other folks provide. And that's just, you know, I don't know how you can make it through life without a taste of both, and hopefully there's some balance to that along the way. But thank you, CV and Lynn, for hanging out with us this evening. It's great to have you part of the group and listening in there. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 434, Ron in North Cumming. Ron, do you have any service stories you'd like to share with us? Let's see. Atlanta 434 Ron was shooting pool, I believe, and he had indicated that he might not be available. So let's go ahead and move on, and we'll make an opportunity for Ron to chime in a little bit later. That brings me next to Chattanooga 69. Ronnie in Chattanooga. Ronnie checked in and out with us this evening, so thank you, Ronnie, for checking in. Great to hear from you. We have Atlanta 555, Dave in Amicalola Falls, probably finishing up the ribeyes and doing dishes right about now, along with his wife Cherie. Atlanta 554, checking in and out. Thank you both for hanging out with us this evening. We'll move next to Atlanta 344, Damon in Murrayville. Damon, do you have any service nightmare stories you'd like to share with us?
Thank you, Justin, for that introduction there. And yes, I do have a service delivery nightmare. It had to do with buying a used car.
Oh.
And, of course, when you buy a used car, you want to get a warranty to go with it. So the place, I'm not going to name any names, but in town here locally, sold me the car, sold me a so-called warranty, kept the car for a little while, had to get some work done on the car, so I took it in to get the warranty work covered, of course, under the warranty they sold me, and I was told I did not have a warranty. They looked it up and brought the warranty that I had supposedly purchased. After looking at the warranty, the signature on the warranty form was not even mine. It was my name but misspelled, and I've spelled my name for quite some time and pretty sure I know how to spell it, so I knew that then it was fraudulent. So they made a mistake. And
Oh, we lost you, Damon. Your timeout timer got you. I think your timeout timer got you, Damon. We understand that they made a mistake, but that's when we lost you.
Copy. I had to break there. Radio was starting to warm up.
Okay.
Yeah, they made a mistake and tried to cover it up by forging my signature on a different warranty, and I called them out on it. And luckily, I got everything fixed, but it was a nightmare getting that done. Over.
Oh, I could just imagine. And I have terrible luck when it comes to things like warranties. It just getting people to cover the things that you expect to be covered, and there's always this exception because it was a Tuesday when it happened, or the sky was blue, so therefore it doesn't count. And my luck. Sorry about that. My luck with warranties has never been good, so I completely relate. Well, I'm glad you had a good outcome and that in the end they honored the agreement there. I that would be very stressful. I'm just sure of it. But thanks for that story, Damon. Glad to hear that you came out on top. Next on my list is Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville. Donald, can you tell me about any service nightmares that you've encountered?
Good evening, Justin, and good evening to the rest of the net. Yeah, I was in my Patriot one time. I'm going to break. And my horn was going off, and I pulled up to the service department, and there was a guy on the phone, and he probably thought I was an idiot to blow the horn, but I was actually not blowing the horn, and the horn was stuck on the Patriot.
Oh my golly! Well, yeah, I could imagine. Somebody just out there blowing the horn, just that noise. A toot toot is one thing, but the long, sustained blast on a car horn is just something that naturally makes people, knock it off. Just quit that. And so I could imagine, poor guy on the phone can't hear anything. I'm going to have to let you go and see why this idiot's blowing his horn. I could just imagine that whole thing playing out. And embarrassing, too, I'll bet. So, well, what happened to that vehicle? Did you sell that?
No, we had to get the instrument replaced.
All right. Well, that's not what I've seen you driving around, so I thought maybe that's something you had at some point in the past. But where did you just recently acquire that?
But yep, go ahead and check me out of the net, Justin. This is 253 WQNV 274 clear.
All right, Donald. Well, I've got you marked in and out on the log now, so thank you for your comments, and hope that you have a good week. We'll talk with you again soon. Next on my list is Atlanta 292, Derek in Rockmart. I believe Derek is cutting up a tree in his backyard. So he was going to be unavailable for us. But thank you, Derek, for checking in. Hope you're able to listen while you work and enjoy the net. That brings me next to Atlanta, 699, Mike in Sugar Hill. Mike, do you have any service nightmare stories you'd like to share with the group? Okay, I recall Mike indicating that he might be tied up as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show him as in and out, and we'll go ahead and move right along. To next, we had Atlanta 698, Beth checking in by way of relay through Mike. Also in and out. Thank you, Beth, for that check-in, and Mike for making it happen. And we have Atlanta 550, Steve in Talking Rock. Steve, do you have any nightmare stories of service failures that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, we built here about 3 years ago and bought all new kitchen appliances whenever we got ready to move into the house. And we've had refrigerator problems. The company that made the refrigerator was good enough to stand behind it, and we arrived at a position where they were going to give us something for another one, and that was all fine and good until after we disposed of the other one, the first one, that they come back and told us they needed all the numbers and serial numbers and all kind of numbers, and that we didn't have.
Yeah, that sounds like a real pain. How did that end up playing out?
Well, the company, now I'll go ahead and name them, it's LG. The company said that if we can get who took a refrigerator off to the great refrigerator place in the sky, that they'd go ahead and honor that. What they were wanting was they was wanting to know which run it was and what the exact number refrigerator it was, so they could find out what it was that was, going down in them. They'd had quite a problem and had a class action suit, but they stood behind it, and I'm a firm believer in them. Go ahead.
Well, I'm glad that you had a good outcome in the end, and that's something that I mean, anything can fail, whether it's a very good quality product or if it's not, you can still have a component or a device fail along the way, even when they're relatively new, and so things can happen. But you're right, it makes all the difference in how things get handled when something goes wrong, and that's the difference maker when it comes to dealing with a company, is how they handle things. So ultimately, with my experience with this truck, as upset as I was, they did take the time to explain their side of the story, and they did give me credits where I felt like, the whole nut being seized on the tie rod when it had just had an alignment a few months prior. I he even acknowledged. He says, "Yeah, it can happen, but I can see where you're pretty leery about that, and that's why we went ahead and credited you for the second alignment, because I'd have probably been upset if that had happened to me too." So they were reasonable when it came to those kind of details in the end. So I'm glad, Steve, that that worked out for you. And yeah, I've heard a lot about LG refrigerators, and it seems as though people either absolutely love them or absolutely loathe them. I haven't had one, so I don't have any experience to speak on, but I'm glad yours is working now, and I hope it lasts you a good long time. That also reminds me of stories that I'm hearing in the housing market today about new homes that are completed and ready for someone to move into, but they can't get appliances because of things being shut down and the ripple effect from all the COVID-19 chaos that's occurred over the last year. So that's creating a real problem in that industry. Next on my list, I have McDonough22, Tim in Stockbridge. Tim, are you familiar with any service-related nightmare stories? I don't imagine you've ever experienced anything like that.
Oh yeah, I have a ton of those I could go back to. By the way, I just bought a brand new LG refrigerator, and so I hope that I've had good luck generally with LG products, and I was kind of an LG phone guy. Got an LG refrigerator, first brand new refrigerator I've ever bought. So I hope it turns out as good as some folks say they do. But my tale of woe goes back about 6 or 7 years ago when I had my Chevy S10, and it had a leaky fuel injector. And so I took it into this shop that I had some experience with because they were doing my inspections yearly, for the emissions inspection thing. And so I take it into the shop. Let me break. To get one fuel injector fixed, and I should have known it would probably need all of them, but so that was the first thing that came up. Well, you need all the fuel injectors need to be replaced, and next thing I know, they called me and said that the starter wouldn't work. I had just put a starter on it 6 months before, so I said, well, okay, put a starter on it, and so a couple of days later, they call me and say, your engine is blown up. And, the good thing about it was that they took responsibility for it. There was nothing wrong with the engine when I took it in there, and nobody had said anything up till that point. So I don't know what happened, but they had to order an engine from LKQ, used engine, which turned out to be, it was exactly like the one that was in there, but with 75,000 miles less on it than mine had. So that turned out all right. It was just that it was so long drawn out, and they kept having this problem and that problem. And then after I finally got my truck back and started driving it, things started going wrong. They left the clutch mud shield off the clutch plate, so I had to take it back in for that. Months after that, the car stops in the middle of the road, and turns out they had draped my battery cable over the manifold, and it burned in too. So just totally sloppy work, just one thing right after another, and it was a big hassle. It doesn't sound that bad, I guess, when you say it in outline form like I'm doing now, but that lasted for about a month and a half, and I didn't have a truck.
Oh yeah, I can just imagine, being stalled out in the middle of the road in an intersection with a truck that suddenly died, only to find when you pop the hood that the power cable has been shorted out because it melted into the manifold. That's the kind of thing that makes you want to just strangle somebody. How could you not know better than to do that? But I don't know. It's a get what you pay for world, but sometimes you pay for a lot and get a little, and it sounds like that was what part of your issue there was. I hate to hear it, but I think it's something that we've kind of all been through to various degrees. And I tell you, Tim, you're making me feel pretty good about my situation here because they only had my truck for a week, which is a long time for an oil change. But considering all that that was done with it, I guess I'm good. And yeah, all of these things kind of temper with time. There was a situation that I had back in Fort Wayne with Verizon. Verizon was the company that provided our home telephone service and our internet service. And it's a whole other nightmare story. And rather than take the time to tell it here, just know that it went on for months, and it involved the Federal Trade Commission and the State Attorney General in Indiana. And it was the State Attorney General that finally got things done. I started getting letters from the VP of operations at Verizon apologizing for the way that I'd been treated. And in the end, I ended up with their best DSL service package that was provided over fiber optic because they had broken my copper lines, and that was illegal for them to do under the circumstances that they did it. So, long story short, I had basically lifetime of high-speed internet for $19 a month. If I'd never moved, I'd still be there, and that was the deal. It was for the life of my contract with them. And then figures as soon as you get a sweet deal like that, a year later, the company has you move to Atlanta. But good stuff, Tim. Thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Atlanta 308. Dan in Marietta. Dan, do you have any stories you'd like to share with the group?
Good evening, Justin. In preparation, I'm a big user of Google and leave reviews, very positive ones and somewhat negative ones from time to time, and was flipping through all of those, and it is funny to have all those experiences you forget about archived and be able to go back and remember some of them. But one that happened recently was a pretty simple, quick story, but it boiled my blood a little bit. Made an appointment to have a windshield replaced, and when you go through that process, you give them all of the information they could ever ask about your vehicle, including the VIN number, to make sure they get the windshield right. I drove the half an hour down to the place, checked in right on time for my appointment, and about 45 minutes later, I noticed the truck was still sitting in the shop and they hadn't started on it. So I brought that to the attention of the manager. Let me break. Brought that to the attention of the manager. He went out, jumped all over the guys, and they got to work. Took the windshield out only to come back in to say the one they had ordered was not the right one, which then turned into a whole nother debacle I'll save for another time. But that's my most recent negative review on Google.
Oh my golly. Well, yeah, I mean, it's terrible that you potentially created your own nightmare, because had you left those guys alone, maybe somebody had realized we need to tell the customer he has to make another appointment because we don't have the right windshield. But holy cow. Yeah, I suppose I've had my windshield replaced in the driveway and at parking lots and stuff like that. Back in my truck driving days, windshields were pretty tough, but once you got a crack in one, they would, in a day, they would just be horrible. So we always tried to get real on top of getting windshields replaced, and I've had a couple of them replaced while I was out on the road at various parking lots and that sort of thing, where they come out and they do the work right there in the field. And I've had that happen too, where they've shown up with the wrong windshield and not able to complete the work. But fortunately, they figured it out before they removed the windshield, because I'll tell you, once that windshield's out, that truck's not going anywhere. That would be tough. That would be tough. So I imagine the truck had to stay in the shop overnight, and you had to find a way home.
Yep, you imagine correct.
Yeah.
And they got it squared away the next day. And it was interesting watching a windshield go in on a new vehicle. I had no idea calibration of all kinds of sensors and everything that evidently live in the windshield nowadays, not in the truck. So for those that haven't experienced that yet, get ready to show over.
Well, that reminds me, 947 and I recently flew to Michigan for a wedding, and when we were there, we rented a car, and when it comes to service nightmares, I got to tell you, I've not had any with Hertz. Well, I've had one, but it was pretty minor. I wouldn't call it a nightmare. I would call it an inconvenience. Hertz has been just phenomenal. And when I get off an airplane, I can see my name on a board, and they have a car ready for me. They have treated me remarkably well over the years, and that's exactly what happened when we flew to Detroit. Minor inconvenience because apparently the garage that they used to rent cars out of is no longer open, so they're using a remote location they shuttle you to. That I didn't appreciate, but um, when we got there to rent the car, um, they had a what was it? It was a I don't even remember what brand the car was now. I'm not a car guy. It was a high-end car. It was a I want to say it was a Lexus. But one of the things that occurred to me as we're driving from Detroit to Julie's brother's place over in um, the other side of Kalamazoo. I can't remember the name of that little town. Um, it started to rain just a little bit, and as we're driving along, the windshield wipers came on automatically. I didn't touch a thing. The wiper just came on. So we got this little bit of a drizzle. The wiper came on and ran for just a short time, and then took two more like really slow delayed swipes, and then settled down and shut off. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. A little while later, it rained, and it rained hard, and the wipers came on, and it came on at a higher speed, and then for just about a minute, it rained buckets. You know, there's not a windshield wiper made on earth that's going to keep up with water when it's coming down like that. But they tried. They tried. And I didn't touch any of the controls at any point to turn wipers up or down or on or off or faster or slower. So there's sensors somewhere on that car, and I imagine maybe in the windshield, that tells it when to turn wipers on and off. That was pretty neat. I've never had a car that did that before. I probably won't have one again unless I rent one. But great experience there with that. So good stuff, Dan. I'm glad that you finally got your windshield replaced. And yeah, with all those sensors in the windshield, I'm sure that doesn't make them any cheaper either. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Atlanta 138, Robert in Auburn. Robert was in and out with us this evening, I believe. Is Robert the one at band practice? I think that's the one at band practice. And that brings me next to Atlanta 417, William, also in Auburn. And maybe William can hear Robert at band practice. What do you hear when you listen there in Auburn, William?
This is 417. Well, I don't hear anything really from where I'm at, but my experience was actually this weekend.
Oh.
I was building a massage table for a friend and ordered some parts from Amazon. A break.
Oh boy, Amazon.
And ordered these parts on Sunday, and of course I have the Prime membership for a 2-day delivery. Well, yesterday, Wednesday, I got a notice that they were delayed and would not be here until next Monday. The table was supposed to be finished yesterday. So I called, and they said, well, the parts have been lost. We can't find them. We can give you credit, or we'll, reorder. So I told them I needed the parts, and the lady started checking into it. And I got a notice from them that I would have the parts delivered in my garage by 10 o'clock last night. Well, 10 o'clock last night, rolled around, no parts. But to make a long story short, Amazon did correct their mistake. All parts ended up here today around 10 o'clock. But it was something else to go through that, just a short thing there. Over.
Ah, yes, and I have to just acknowledge that for the volume of business that Amazon does, it's pretty amazing to me that they're able to move items as quickly as they do. I can't tell you how many times I've ordered something and have it arrive the next day. 2 days is pretty common, but the next day is also fairly common. And my son is living in Midtown Atlanta, and he was telling me about how he had ordered something on a Friday morning and it was delivered Friday evening. That is pretty remarkable. But I'll tell you something that I read in an article like a year ago, maybe more. Um, Amazon, one of the things that they do is when they send their delivery trucks out, they'll put products on the truck that haven't been ordered yet. Small things, typically, things like thumb drives or makeup or telephone, cell phone accessories, small stuff. But they go ahead and put these things on the truck, anticipating that somebody in the neighborhood where that truck is going to operate is likely to order one or more of those items, and they'll just be able to slip it in and deliver it same day. Um, you know, that is just the idea that they thought to do that they can put a certain amount of inventory on those delivery trucks that hasn't even been ordered yet, with the expectation that the computer says chances are pretty good that somebody's going to ask for this item today, and they just do it. So that, I think, is pretty remarkable, and they may have fallen down on that circumstance, and they've fallen down on things for me as well. But overall, I think they do a pretty good job, and neat stuff. I just wish that the guy in charge wasn't such a jerk, and but that's a whole different matter. So thank you for that, William. Glad to hear that you finally got your parts and are able to finish that table and put that thing to good use. Next on my list is Atlanta 644, Sean in Alpharetta. Sean is in and out with us tonight, as are the next several. Let's get through those here real quick. We have Atlanta 286, Lynn listening in with CV over in Murrayville. Thank you, Lynn, for hanging out with us this evening. We have Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen. Greg is doing just fine. He's just been busy. Leave him alone. He'll be back with us as soon as he is able. Thanks, Greg, for checking in tonight. We have Atlanta 180, Mike in Cherry Log, who may have fallen asleep by now. And if that's the case, have a good evening, Mike, and we'll talk with you at some point in the next day or so. This brings me next to Atlanta 420, William in Roswell. William, can you tell me about any service nightmares that you've experienced? Atlanta 420, William in Roswell. Are you still with us, William? All right. William must have been distracted and is busy with something, and hopefully he can come back to us here when we get towards the end. So we'll go ahead and mark William as in and out of the log for now and move on next to Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County. Bobby, can you tell us about any service nightmares you've experienced?
Well, no, Justin, I can't because I've worked on my own stuff almost all my life, and for 35 plus years I've been involved in the automotive industry, except for a couple of years working at the gun store. But other than that, I've never had a problem because I've always done parts, and if the service department gave me a problem, they wouldn't get the parts they need. So I always had outstanding service.
Well, you are a lucky dog, and that's good stuff. And there is a lot of value in that, in being able to take care of, make your own repairs, and do your own maintenance and that sort of thing. I've got no end of grief for the fact that I took the truck over there for an oil change. Oh, why don't you do your own oil changes? Well, there's a lot of reasons why. Time is one of the big ones, and for $25 for the hour that it's going to take for me to do an oil change, and then I've got the used oil to deal with. I've got the mess on my hands. I've got, the tools to drag out and put away. For $25, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. There's better uses of my time and money than that. So, but it's not that I can't do it. I just, I see more value in dropping it off and letting somebody else take care of it. Now the problem here is the root of this entire escapade comes down to this: is that they sent me a more or less a text message, or it was a text message with a link to a web page, and on that web page it had a list of bullet items that they thought that the truck needed, and they wanted me to go through and approve or disapprove each one, and so they said the tires were cupped, and that they recommend replacing them. And so, in my mind, if the tires are cupped and they're recommending them being replaced, then they're severely cupped, and that's why I was upset from the get-go, because they're new tires. And what I didn't do is I didn't go over there and inspect it myself. And so that's my lesson here, is that I can't trust what the service writer is telling me and what their app is, because apparently the things that get entered into those things in the app are pre-worded. They're just selecting things from a menu, and then it just shows up in there. Nobody's typing in the specific condition. It's just being generated by a computer. And that being the case, it's not good information. And so that was my fault. I should have gone over there and inspected those tires myself and said, "What the hell are you talking about cupping? There's no cupping here. Change the oil and shut up." That's what should have happened, but I panicked. And now the truck did need struts, but I probably could have gotten another 10,000 miles with the ratty old struts that were there. So that's where I'm at. But glad to hear that you don't have any stories of bad service, and that you are a lucky dog, and that keep on keeping on. Next on my list is Atlanta 104, David in Rockmart. David, do you have any service stories you'd like to share? And holler at Lisa and let her know she's next.
Yes, sir. Hey, Justin. Hey, everyone on the net. She wanted me to tell everyone that her maintenance issue is two teenagers upstairs. So she's upstairs handling that issue.
Oh, yeah.
For mine, I do commercial construction, and I've had a lot of issues, from dropping an ATM in the middle of Marietta Street right at Woodruff Park and blocking traffic where they were trying to install it, to some other things. But my biggest one was my old Chevy truck. I had a 2008 Chevy Silverado with 370,000 miles on it. Let me break. I kept it going because it was paid for, and I did the same thing. I pulled in the Kaufman tire to get a front end alignment, and suspension was shot. $1,400 later, and 12 hours worth of labor. I even had to jump in and help them finish up because I was in Buford and had no ride home.
Oh.
So, needless to say, $4,500 worth of maintenance in 1 year. I let it go, and I now am the proud owner of a Toyota. Over.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I was just telling my wife, that, we've got so daggone much money in this truck now, we can never sell it. So I don't know. And that's the thing. You put all that money into it, and you've got all these new components in it. You hate to let it go now. But I bought it used. So probably the previous owner saw this coming, and that's why it's a used truck. That's why I've got it. So all the money I saved, there are no free rides. There are no free lunches. But, Lisa dealing with the teenagers reminds me of, two things. The first one is, once in my life, I thought that having one kid would be enough. But at this point, after having had 4, I know that it's true. And the other thing that comes to mind is they've often talk about with children. They talk about young children, and the terrible twos, and the toddlers, and yeah, nobody ever said anything about the terrible 15 or 16 or 17. Man, those kids are tough to deal with. Uh, that's hard stuff. The 2-year-olds are easy. There's nothing terrible about that. It's the teenagers that are tough. So Lisa's got her hands full, and I imagine so do you. It was great meeting the two of you the other day, and look forward to catching up with both of you again soon. So tell her I get it, and I appreciate that she's busy tied up with them, and we'll catch up with her another time. Next on my list is Atlanta 538, Rob in Dawsonville. Rob is in and out with us this evening. And that brings me to 560 McCoy in Cedartown, also in and out with us this evening. So Rob and McCoy, thank you both for checking in and out with us this evening. And I'll move on next to Atlanta 252, Shad in Emerson. Shad, do you have any service nightmares you'd like to share with the group? Atlanta 252, Shad in Emerson. Shad, do you have any service nightmares you'd like to share with the group? All right. Well, something must have drawn Shad away from the radio, and he's not able to respond. So, and I believe he's using Zello, and that may be giving him fits too. I hope that's not the case, but if it is, Shad will definitely make a break for you here at the end and see if you can jump in. But for now, we're going to go ahead and move on to Atlanta 313, Jason in Rome. Jason, do you have any service nightmares you'd like to share with the group?
Also, after hearing y'all's stories, I believe I'll go into White House and clean it up. But as far as the children, I have 5, and I understand what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Kids. Gotta love them. You have to. It's the law. All right, Jason. Well, we've got a tough time copying you. So, did you have any nightmare stories that you wanted to share, or are you good?
Good, sir. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with y'all. And after hearing y'all's stories, I have nowhere near what y'all have. Like I say, as far as the children, I have 5, and I understand about the terrible twos and the mean things, but I do understand.
Yeah.
So I feel for you.
You came in nice and strong that time, Jason. Great signal and great audio. So whatever you did there, make note of it, and that'll work real well for you. Yes. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear. Congratulations that you don't have any horror stories to share. You take a few more laps around the sun and something's bound to happen, but maybe you'll be the one that escapes all of that, and I hope that that's true. So thank you for that, Jason. Next on my list is Chattanooga 5'8", Bill in Chattanooga. Bill is the Rocket Man, and I very much enjoy conversations with Bill throughout the week about SpaceX and other space-related and rocket-related topics and subjects. Very enjoyable conversations. At least they are for me when they come up. So, but Bill is in and out with us this evening, so we won't be hearing about any SpaceX updates at this time. Next on my list is Atlanta 360, Chris in Atlanta. Now that I'm reading this, I'm thinking he may have said in and out, but I don't have that marked. Chris, are you still with us? Okay, I'm gonna make the make the guess here that Atlanta 360 is in and out with us this evening. And I'm just going to go ahead and say thanks, Chris, for checking in. Glad to have you in the group here. Looking forward to catching up with you another time. And if you just didn't get to the radio in time, then stick around. We'll have a chance for you to jump in here in just a little bit. Atlanta 780, Houston in Powder Springs is living a service nightmare story, and it's not over. So, Houston, do you have any? Do you have anything you'd like to share?
Next road, that may be right. Well, it probably take too long to go, but we have another promise of tomorrow. We're only promise. Got to meet them over there at 11 o'clock. So maybe after, 90 days, 20 days, whatever, they're finally going to get started. At least we can hope so. My insurance adjuster's supposed to be over maybe. As far as automotive, I can see anything. I've worked on them all my life up to the last couple of years. Haven't had any nightmares with them, but just home.
Well, indeed, Houston, and I remember not that long ago a nightmare situation that you and Mona lived through when your RV got hit on the highway on your way out to Arizona and cut your trip short and just absolutely ruined your summer vacation that year. And we all felt bad for you then, but that pales in comparison to what you're dealing with now. 19 days into this thing, I understand the frustration, and I wish there was something I could say to make that better. But there's nothing. I mean, all we can do is keep praying for you and Mona, and keep you in our thoughts, and hope for the best. So hang in there, Houston. We're looking forward to seeing you on the other side of this. Just like when the camper got destroyed, you and Mona made it through that safe and sound, and so we're looking forward to the day when we can look back on this and say, do you remember when? We're not there yet, but that day's a coming, so we just got to hang on for a little while. But just know that we're all thinking about you, Houston. We all care about you. Next on my list is Atlanta 76, David in Duluth. David, do you have any service nightmares you'd like to share with the group? Okay, no response from David, so I'm going to go ahead and show him as in and out on tonight's log. David, if that's not correct and you just didn't get here in time, that's okay. Just jump in right here when we get to the end, and we'll get your comments in here. Next on my list is Atlanta 57, Andrew in Holly Springs. I'm very curious as to what Andrew might have to say about service nightmares.
Good evening, Justin, and everyone on the net. Well, okay. Boy, we could keep the net going probably till midnight with this, but you were correct about the other perspective. Of course, being in the industry with automotive, and especially being a dealer and having to deal with manufacturer warranties and even third-party warranties, so on and so forth, so much is talked about shops and dealers and this, that, and the other not being forthright with customers.
Yeah.
That's obviously been documented on the news, so on and so forth. We don't condone that whatsoever, hence the reason why I've been where I'm at so long, because that just doesn't happen. But there's a flip side to this, and that is the customer being forthright with us.
Oh, yeah.
Because you just could not imagine when it comes to people maybe thinking they don't have to pay out of their pocket, the types of baloney we are told has happened to the car is not, it's a defect and has not happened from an outside influence, even though we can blatantly look at the car and say, well, hold on, this doesn't make sense. I got a prime example. Let me break.
Yeah.
This is a number of years ago when 2007 was a new model where I work. And customer came in, it was the husband, and there was a big divot in the dash on the passenger side by where the passenger airbag would deploy. And he just said it just sunk in from the heat. And we're like, that's interesting. Because typically when you have these vehicles, you notice patterns with vehicles. You tend to see similar things. This was completely off the chart. So anyway, we went through the whole process of getting it approved through the manufacturer, so on and so forth, and we were very skeptical the entire time. Well, just to go ahead and rewind or to fast forward it all the way to the end, the wife picked up the car with me, and she was so thankful. She was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I was in so much trouble, and you saved me. And, of course, I looked at her, and I'm like, I saved you. She goes, well, the kids were being bad in the back of the car. I had my feet on the dash, and I went to go yell at them, and I picked my foot up and slammed my heel on the dash and put a big divot in it. So it all became clear. Let me break.
Oh, my.
Needless to say, after about a $1,800 warranty job was done on the car, it turns out it should have never been done in the first place because it was not a defect on the car. And, of course, I could go on and on and on and on about different stories about where people tell us just completely bogus things to try to get things covered under warranty because they don't want to pay out of their pocket. And I can't tell you how many times we have things that are documented and signed and verbal authorizations, and people come back and say they didn't authorize it. Even with a signature, that somehow seems to work. Anyway, I'll get off the soapbox. I'll throw it back over to net control.
Well, that's very interesting, and yeah, that is I'm glad you shared that with us, Andrew, because that's a completely different perspective, and I can completely imagine everything that you said coming, playing out. That this bizarre problem, and yeah, I can appreciate that when you're dealing with a dealership and a line of cars develops a problem, you're probably going to see that same problem in several different cars, especially if it's a manufacturing defect or if it's a defective part from their vendor. You'll see similar things, crop up in that line of cars, that model or that series or that, cars that were made in that period. And that makes perfect sense. But to have something completely out of the norm, you got to wonder, and then for her to spill the beans after the fact. Oh boy, that's oh boy. Well, thank you for sharing that, Andrew. That is fantastic stuff. And your comment about getting the customer authorizations on various things. A couple of things come to mind with this app that this shop that I use has. They send me basically a text that has a link, and when I click on that link, it takes me to a web page, and that page is got all the different things that they're recommending be done to the vehicle, and all I have to do is click on it and say approve, and then click on it again at the end, and now they have a document, they have something that they can go back on that's hard for me to argue that I authorized the work to be done. And I can go back and change those authorizations up until I hit the OK button at the bottom. Once I hit that, then it goes to them. And, of course, at that point then I could probably call them and say, hey, look, I know I clicked on this, but I don't want you to do it. But, and COVID-19 has kind of conditioned us not to go and deal with things like this on a face-to-face basis. And I think that's the core of my button, and that should recover it. And Bobby, thank you for the notification there. All right, Hank, thank you again for your comments. And what a lucky guy that you've not any stories to relate in terms of nightmare service. But I'll tell you, cable companies and cell phones can be their own nightmare. So that's legit. Thank you for that, Hank. Next, I'm going to go to Atlanta 530 DR in Logansville. Let's see if DR can get through the noise and tell us if he has any service nightmares he'd like to share.
copy me now?
Yeah, DR, that's a much better signal. Not sure why I had so much trouble hearing you before, but that works. So yeah, come on with your story.
Oh, okay. Well, I came through Jersey this time, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, I do have a short story. At one time with my vendor, I asked them to disconnect my landline phone, the twisted pair, and I insisted that they be careful and not disconnect my DSL. And they said they wouldn't, but ultimately they disconnected my phone and my internet service. And can you believe it took 15 days to restore my internet service? And it was, well, I can say it was AT&T. I was an employee with them. And so the other thing that they did when they had to give me a new account number because everything was disconnected. And so when they gave me the new account number, and they took away my employee concession. So I called about that, and then later on I found out they took away the concession to all employees. I had that trouble. So I finally got my internet service back, but I didn't get my concession back, and I don't miss the landline phone either.
Well, that sounds remarkably similar to what Verizon did to me back in Fort Wayne. You know, back when VoIP was just a kind of a brand new thing. Of course, telephone companies have been using VoIP for decades. It's not new to them, but the individual service was a new thing. Having VoIP routed to an end user on a DSL connection was relatively new. And Verizon had a product that they called VoiceWing. It was a Verizon offered product, and I subscribed to VoiceWing for the landline service because it was neat. It was new. It was VoIP all the way to there was a box that sat on the desk next to the router that broke out the VoIP service into a telephone connector that my regular phone would plug into. So it was all digital all the way through, and the service was terrible. It had a high latency. It had lots of dropped calls, lots of choppy audio. And I would get on the phone with the VoiceWing people to do troubleshooting and diagnostics, and we would open ports on the computer, and we would mess with the router, and we did all kinds of things, and then we would get on the phone with the DSL part of Verizon. And what struck me as odd is that this Verizon VoiceWing people didn't have any kind of clout with the DSL people. In fact, I would be on the phone listening to Verizon VoiceWing arguing with Verizon DSL, and they're both running some of the same diagnostic tools on my line, and they're arguing with each other over the results. And that kind of struck me as interesting, that the DSL people were not being forthright with the VoiceWing people. Ultimately, that service ended up being so terrible that I asked Verizon to discontinue that. And much like you, I wanted the VoiceWing service to be disconnected, but not the DSL service. I wanted to continue on with the internet. I relied heavily on that for my work, and they did me a dirty. They not only did they disconnect my voice service, but they dug down about a foot into the ground and cut the copper line to my box. And that was the thing that got the Attorney General's interest, was that when they cut my copper line because they didn't have a proper disconnect order, that was a violation, and that got them into some pretty serious hot water. So all said and done, when I got service restored, it was fiber optic service, and it was at DSL pricing, and it was locked in for life. probably until somebody disconnected it and I had to give me a new account number. But fantastic. Well, DR, you are my last check-in this evening. You are my tail gunner, and somehow, let's see, did we miss? No, we didn't miss Marty. Marty and Tyrone, did I miss you? Noon and 2-9. Are you still with us?
Well, I was going to go out and get myself a cup of coffee here any moment because I'm starting to nod out. No, I've been here listening and enjoying all the stories all along the way.
Well, for some reason, you have now resumed your tail gunner status. So congratulations on that. I don't know how I missed that, but I certainly did, and you have my apologies. But I would love to hear any service nightmare stories that you can share.
Well, having run a service business, I certainly have a number of them from the sole proprietor of a small service business back in the day, but I won't share some of those. As a consumer of services, a lot of us had trouble with refrigerators.
Oh, yeah.
I'm no exception to that. I had bought a couple of refrigerators, 2 at a time. I got a good deal buying 2, one for my mom in a mobile home and one for the same time some years ago. And to make a long story short, I'll use that first here. Just short of, just like a week before the warranty was going to be up, my refrigerator had crapped out. Turned out needed a new compressor. The service guy did not have one. Had to order the parts. And mind you, this is the dealer that sold it. They no longer keep parts on hand for any of these, and I'm sure that's true of a lot of appliances these days. Plus, the stores that used to carry parts for appliances are gone. Needless to say, 3 weeks went by. Obviously, I have no running refrigerator. It's just the luck of the draw that I happen to have the mobile home and the refrigerator that I bought from my mom was still running in the mobile home. I had moved her out to some other place, and it was still running over there. So I was able to take all of my frozen stuff, put it in the mobile home fridge that I had bought over there. It was about a mile away from me, and kept everything else in a cooler for 3 weeks. So I basically lived out of a big igloo cooler, buying ice bags every couple of days and filling the cooler up until they finally came out and fixed it. They fixed it once, didn't work, had to come out 2 days later. It was just a welding problem. So he fixed it back up, and actually worked fine from there on forward. But had I had the family and everything else going on at the time, other than being a single bachelor, living out of a cooler would have really, really been a nightmare. So I guess that's not as horrible as some of the stories I had, but or I heard here as we're going. But it still was a bit of a nightmare in and of itself. And I guess you just used to have me in the tail gunner slot. Noon and 29.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem right having you anywhere else. And yeah, you know, we take the refrigerator for granted. I think that we all do. For many years, we've had 2 refrigerators. We had the refrigerator in a house with the food and the the regular food stuff. And when you've got 4 kids, there's plenty of stuff to put in a refrigerator to keep it full. And then we had a refrigerator in the rec room or in the garage or in some other location that had the beverages and everything from bottled water to other things that come in cans and bottles. And so we've had that arrangement for a very, very, very long time. We're down to a single fridge now, and it's good. It's a nice sized fridge. It's adequate for us. We're empty nesters now, so we don't need a beverage refrigerator anymore. But yeah, if that thing were to go south, we'd be in a world of hurt right away. And the trouble is, right now, appliances are in short supply. So parts, I imagine, are hard to come by as well. Someone was telling me, I think it's a Kia Sorento. has been out of commission for weeks and weeks and weeks. They'd hit an animal and did many thousands of dollars of damage to the vehicle. The vehicle has been repaired completely except for a headlight assembly. Can't get the part. Haven't been able to get the part for weeks, and every time they can't even get the part used or as an aftermarket part. And every time they reach out to the dealer to find out, when the part's going to be available, they get a new deliver by date, and they still don't have the car back. So this whole thing with our supply network being interrupted is much bigger, I think, than we realize. We thought it was a crisis when the toilet paper was gone. I tell you, I hate to think of what's going to be gone next. So it's going to be an interesting next couple of years, I think, when all of this continues to shake out. But that's a conversation for another evening, and we can dig into that another time. Thank you, Marty, for your comments, and I appreciate that. We're at the end of our list now, and we have an opportunity to look for any additional users that'd like to check in, any late check-ins, and it looks like Atlanta 911 is ready to check in. Atlanta 911, are you out there?
And fourth, this is Atlanta 911, WARS 515. Good evening, Justin. Good evening, Lynette. How is everybody?
Well, I think that we are fantastic. How are you?
Other than a very long day that's been already about 11 hours, nope, about 12 hours, I'm doing pretty darn good. I know vaguely what the topic is, but can you tell me what the topic officially is so I can make sure if I have a story or not?
Well, we were talking about nightmare real estate. I'm sorry, nightmare service stories.
Ooh, you know me and my panache for having a story with everything, but in this category, I'm just not even sure which one to choose. There's just so many.
Well, and we started off the net with those very sentiments. There are so many service nightmares that have been encountered that I just don't even want to pick one. That was C.V. Smith had made that comment or something to that effect very early on in the program. And I can think of more than a few that have occurred in the time that I've known you. So, yeah, and every one of them is an adventure. So we'll just chalk it up to there have been a few.
Well, I could bring up December 13th if you want me to bring one up. I could bring up April 2010 on Good Friday. Those are two that come to mind.
Oh, yes. The day that my real estate played the ultimate April Fool's joke on me, and the day that my real estate agent tried to kill me. Yeah, take your pick.
Although I do like the time when Julie questioned if I was actually asked to pick her up by her husband, and I asked her if her life insurance policy was up to date. But yeah, no, I'll go with the day, December 13th, 2013. It was a Friday, and it was right before rush hour. I had gone down to Norfolk Southern to deliver some goodies to my clients down there in Justin's apartment, because I've sold a house to probably about 8 or 10 people at that point in his apartment, all right? So since Justin lived at that time probably about 10 minutes from me, I asked him if he wanted to skip taking the bus, and we would drive home together, and started to get on the interstate and promptly got plowed by a car, which totaled my van. So instead of getting home early at like 3:30, Justin did not get home until probably about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. We had to get Gary, what's Gary's number, Atlanta 948 maybe?
Yep.
To come pick us up in Atlanta.
Yep, yeah, that was the afternoon that you tried to end me. We turned right in front of that car that was speeding at us and clobbered us right in the passenger side door with the evil grin on your face the whole time, and uh, yeah, that he laugh that you had going on. Yeah, but fortunately, I survived that incident, and um, yeah, I kind of forgot all about that when I suggested that Julie ride with you, but clearly she didn't.
Yeah, I don't know if you've gotten into a vehicle with me that I've been driving since then. But yeah, that was, fortunately we had no injuries. Justin had a little bit of a sore head for a few days. He banged into my windshield, and we were only going probably, what, Justin, 3 or 4 miles an hour going across where a bunch of traffic had let us go through. And this other car, much smaller than my van, plowed into the front of my car, did not deploy airbags, but she had to have been going about 40, 50 miles an hour and just obliterated my van.
Yeah, I tell you, I think she was doing 30, and then as soon as she saw an opportunity for a payday, she floored it, and was probably doing 50 by the time she hit us.
Yeah, it was not pretty by any means, but my car got totaled, got paid off, and then I switched to Toyotas after that.
Yeah, very nice. Well, let me go ahead and take this opportunity to open up the floor for any questions or comments, or see if there are any other late check-ins to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. We're talking about service nightmare stories.
This is
WRCL 957. Joe, late check-in. Good evening.
I have any stories to tell. Just on our way home from a very special date night tonight, as me and the young lady here are celebrating 32 years of wedded bliss. This is WRMD 996, Atlanta 660.
this is WREB 450 Atlanta 26 Flip, coming to you from beautiful Druid Hills.
All right. We had a couple of doubles in there, but let me see if I got everybody. Maybe I missed somebody, but let's just see how well I did. I have Noonan25 Joe in Fayetteville checking in this evening. Great to hear from you, Joe. I'm guessing we've gone on long enough that you finished up with your other nets and have an opportunity to hang out with us for a minute. I also have Atlanta 295 Scott from Dallas, celebrating 32 years of marriage and taking time out at the end of their date night to check in with us. That is very cool, Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time for that. I also have Atlanta 660 Jeff in Sugar Hill checking in with us this evening. It's great to hear from you, Jeff. I'm looking forward to speaking with you here in just a moment. And I have Atlanta 26 Flip in the beautiful Druid Hills. Flip, great to hear from you tonight, and looking forward to talking with you also. Do we have any other late check-ins? Net Control standing by.
This is Atlanta 138. Bagpipe practice has ended for the night, so I'm good to go.
All right, Atlanta 138 is back in the mix. Okay, we'll put you back in the lineup here, and we'll come back to you in a moment. And let me go ahead and let's go back to Noonan 25 Joe in Fayetteville. It's great to hear from you, Joe. We've missed you here for a little bit, but glad to have you back. And can you tell me, do you have any service nightmare stories that you'd like to share?
Hello, everybody on the net. Yeah, other nets and meetings. Everything seems to happen on Thursday. I miss you guys. So lots of different stories I could tell. I'll just pick one, brief one, and it's more of an annoyance than a nightmare. Sirius XM radio is a service I didn't know that I needed to have until I got a car with a radio that did satellite radio. And their pricing model is such that you can normally get a special to sign up for it, and it's normally reasonable, maybe $5 a month. But then at renewal, it's always a horrendous fee, like $250, $300 a year. So I have to let it lapse by a single day, and then call in and sign up for new service. I've been doing that for about 8 years now.
Oh, geez.
And it's just a hassle, but I do it. Back to you, Justin. Noonan 25.
Yeah, you know, it's not just Sirius that has that marketing model. There's a lot of businesses that do that, and I just don't get it. I don't understand why you don't treat your existing customers well, and but it seems to work for them. It seems to work for the Atlanta Journal and Constitution. I stopped subscribing because I don't like to spend a lot of time with my bills. I prefer to set things up that are constant like that, a service thing like that, so that I know how much it is, and I can arrange to make those payments on a regular basis. That money is scheduled to go out of my account, on a particular day each month, and then I don't have to babysit it and police it. And I've got enough of those kind of accounts that work really, really well for me that I just won't tolerate one that doesn't. And the Atlanta Journal and Constitution constantly wanting to change the subscription rate. And after a couple of years, it became a real problem. I got a letter in the mail from them that they were going to turn my account over to collections. And so that prompted me to make some phone calls and made it very clear to them that not only would there not be any collections, but that they were going to satisfy this account here and today, or it's over forever. Well, we couldn't come to an agreement, and so I will not subscribe to that paper anymore. Not the digital edition or the print, because I just feel like what they did was abusive, and I just can't tolerate that. But I guess if you know the game and you're prepared to play it, and you have a plan, you can put a reminder in your phone that to cancel it or change the credit card, or whatever method you can use to keep them from auto renewing at that higher rate. Then you can beat them at their own game. And congratulations for doing that, Joe. That's fantastic. So good stuff. Glad to hear you on the radio. I know that you're busy. I'd love to be able to catch up with you sometime soon, and maybe throw a dart at a calendar and see if we can come up with a plan for a North Georgia GMRS fox hunt. And so when you have the opportunity to spend a few minutes on the phone, please give me a call. Let's talk about that. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 295 Scott from Dallas checking in with us this evening on date night. How'd it go?
Well, we did our usual thing of trivia date night with our friends, so it's nice to have a night out with the friends on our anniversary. But yeah, it went real well. I don't, like many others, I have many service stories I can tell you, but I know it's getting long in the tooth on the net here, so I will just say that it was a wonderful night, and thank you very much. Back to the net, Atlanta 295, WRFN 658.
Well, fantastic. Scott, thank you so much for checking in with us this evening. It's great to hear from you, and looking forward to to hearing more stories as we go. And be sure and tell Debbie that we said hey. Glad that you had a great time tonight. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 660 Jeff in Sugar Hill. Jeff, can you tell me, do you have any service nightmares you'd like to share?
Well, good evening to the net. You know, when you live as long as I have, and not as quite as long as some of you other guys out there, there is service is one of the difficult things in the United States. You know, there was a book out in the 90s that said you have to demand good service, otherwise you'll get bad service, and they'll charge you more for it the next time you go in. So one of my favorites is restaurants. So there's a restaurant over in Avalon, and I went over there. I won't name the restaurant, of course, because they're probably a good restaurant every other time than when I went there. And there was a concert out there, and there was a bunch of people standing in line to go into the restaurant. And I walked in and said to the hostess, "Hey, you know, we want a table for two." And I looked around, and there were 10 empty tables in the restaurant, right in the middle, and it wasn't COVID. So I said, you know, what's going on with the 10 empty tables? And the young girl had probably just started there or something. She says, "Well, we are those are reserved tables." And I said, "Okay, great. How long do you hold the reservation?" And she said, 1 hour. It was apparent that there were a lot of folks who reserved tables that weren't coming. So, you know, restaurants are my favorite. Everybody eats at a restaurant, and some of them are really great. And my recommendation for restaurants is tell the waitress what you want. If she doesn't give it to you, tip her well. And the next time you come in, she will remember you, and she will, of course, do everything just like you like it. So in this restaurant story, we ended up going to the bar, and then we saw, you know, an open fire pit, and then we said, "Well, can we go over there?" "No, you got to go back to the hostess." It was just, you know, one of those round-around things where you spent more time. You know, I don't even remember what we ate. It was good, but all I remember is that their service was poor, and it all started from the hostess at the front not knowing what to do and how to get people in there. So, you know, I suggested on my way out that if you're going to reserve tables, the wait should be 15 or 20 minutes. If you're late, you need to go ahead and seat the table, because we spent probably between me and my girlfriend and the other couple that was there, probably around $300. You know, this is an upscale restaurant, and 10 tables times $300 is you don't want to miss out on that. So anyway, I love to eat, and I love it when I get great service, but this is service nightmare, so that's it for me. Atlanta 660, WRMD 996.
Well, good stuff, Jeff. And yeah, you know, it is a different age right now, and I don't know how long it's going to last. But you know, the tipping well, the point that you made about, you know, if you're a little bit disappointed to tip well so that you'll be remembered, I think there's a lot of merit to that. And you know, our tendency is to not tip well if we're disappointed. If you didn't if you didn't keep my drink refilled, and you didn't, you know, then you don't deserve, you know, the full tip. And you know, and I'll tell you, that's the way my parents are. It's kind of embarrassing sometimes. Very often, I'll make an excuse that I have to use the restroom so I can go back and put more tip on the table. But in any case, it's a different time now, and we have to remember that a lot of these places are short-staffed and doing the best they can, and so sometimes there's a wait that might be a little bit longer than we'd like. But you know, my experience has been in the handful of places that we've gone to go out to dinner, that despite wait times and things like that, when you do get in there and you get an opportunity to order your food, the staff have been, without exception, phenomenal. Just over the top. Like it's a whole different experience in dining out. So what it tells me is that there's a group of people that are working because they want to work and because they enjoy working and they enjoy serving people, and then there's the other people that have chosen to stay home, and what we're left with are the people that are excellent at their craft, and I'm enjoying that very much. The downside is that we're not necessarily fully staffed in some of these places, and the wait time is a little bit higher. The upside is that the quality of service is definitely significantly different, and that is very much worthy of excellent tipping. So, yes, tip your waiters and waitresses on your way out. Thank you very much. Good stuff, Jeff. Glad to hear that, and looking forward to speaking with you more as we go. Next on my list is Atlanta 26, and Robert, we're going to come to you. I haven't forgotten you. We're going to come to you here as soon as we're done with Flip. Got a bad copy on you, Flip. I'm not sure why, but you're not hitting sassafras very well.
Well, I'll sign out. I don't know what's the problem either. But is Pine Log off?
No, it's connected, and that second time around you sounded just fine. I don't know what the difference is, but you sound just fine. So go ahead with your service nightmare story.
Well, like everybody, I have a lot of different stories and experiences through the years, but I kind of tend to be like Bobby. I tend to do it myself a lot to the point where sometimes too much. And over the years, I've learned that I really think that people who do it themselves a lot tend to underestimate the value of their time, and people who tend to not do it yourself tend to overestimate the value of their time. And the truth is, it's somewhere in between. So we all, on either end, need to kind of try the other side of it now and then. Back to you.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much truth to that. When 947 and I go around from time to time about various things where we need to have work done on things around the house that I'm not very good at doing, or I don't have the confidence to do, or the skill level to do, and we need to hire a professional. Well, holy cow, that is very expensive at times, and it's not that I don't appreciate the value of having a professional here. It's that I just don't want to pay that much. If I can do it myself. So I've come to the place where it's very rare that we bring somebody in. I will learn how to do things to to be able to do it myself. And the other problem that we've had is so many times when we've had people come on the property to do work for us is that we're getting poor quality work and poor workmanship, and having warranty issues after the fact, and having to have them come out again and again and again, and excuses, and just so I have kind of become conditioned to we're not calling anybody until it's a last resort. Now, something like an oil change, I would think that would be something that's old hat. I mean, anybody can do that in a driveway with a shop towel and a bucket, and some fresh oil. How hard is it to change a oil filter, and how hard is it to drain the oil out of a pickup truck? It's not like it's you got to use a vacuum device to suck it up through the heads. You can just pull the drain plug and let it run out. And so there's just a number of things. But at the same time, I've got a boat that's sitting out here, and the motor is seized up, and I know it's just rust in the cylinder wall. I know that all I have to do is figure out how to get that thing to turn over a couple of times so the rings can scrape that rust off the cylinder wall, and get some lubrication up in there, and it'll be fine. So, but have I done anything with it? I'm a little bit reluctant to do that, because what if that's not what it is? So, Yeah, I get it. Yeah, and the value of my time, I'd sure like to spend some time out on a lake, but I can't do that until I fix that boat. So I don't know. I don't know. You tell me. But thank you for that, Flip, and appreciate your help with the log tonight. And I tell you, I was very close to asking you to fill in for me this evening because at the beginning of the evening I had a little queasy feeling and I wasn't sure that I was going to be good for the duration. But that has passed and we're in good shape at this point. So, it's a comfort to know that I could have leaned on you if I needed that. So thank you for being there, Flip. Next on my list is Atlanta 138. Robert in Auburn finished with band practice and ready to yak on the radio about service nightmares. Robert, what have you got to share with us?
This is Atlanta 138. Well, service nightmares is I live in an area of Georgia that has DSL and cable for internet. And I'm stuck either between Comcast or Windstream. And Windstream only supplies 3 megabits per second to my house, so I'm kind of stuck with Comcast for high-speed internet, so to say. And they charge us incredible amounts.
Yes, and that's another big problem that we have is a lack of competition when it comes to those particular services. And but I tell you, we have hope on the horizon. And have you placed an order yet for your Starlink terminal?
I have not. I do not know how to set up that. I don't know how to go in and receive that.
Well, it's not available yet in our area, but it's coming. So there's a couple of things going on. One, they still need to put some more satellites up in order for there to be adequate coverage in this area. And two, they are building the terminals just as fast as they can. And so there's a backlog of terminal availability, as well as we're still waiting for more satellites to go up. There's something like 1,500 satellites up there now. So they're getting really close. There's 5 launches that have to happen from Vandenberg in California to finish filling the pattern that's going to serve our area. And those launches haven't happened. They're not scheduled to happen until late summer, early fall. Once those satellites are in place, we should have a coverage pattern here that will allow us to get Starlink in this area. So I have an order in for my Starlink terminal. Gary has an order in for his. And whichever one shows up first is going to Sassafras, going to the flagship site. We're going to put that in place up there because we do need high bandwidth connectivity up there, and we're getting by with our cellular connection. But Gary's complaining because my nets run too long, and it's chewing up data on his connection, and we're digging into his pockets. So Starlink should help with that. But for you, all you need to do is go onto the website for Starlink and fill out the form. They're going to ask you to pay a deposit. I think it's $100. And it's a refundable deposit. So if you change your mind later, you can get your money back. And then when the Starlink terminal is available to ship, they'll send you an email, and you'll authorize that to come to you, and you'll pay the balance at that time, which is going to be $450, I think. And then from that point on, it's $100 a month, and you have, very high speed, unlimited data consumption over a satellite terminal, and you're bypassing the Comcast and the AT&T and the Windstream and everybody else that's out there are now going to be forced to compete with the new kid in town, and this is a serious contender. So I'm excited. I think that the potential for this is enormous. And I think that in time it's going to drive the cost of internet service down. So I hope that you're able to benefit from that. It'll be later this year before you can, but just know before you sign any contracts with anybody for 2 years worth of service that before the year is out, you should have a good alternative on the table. So thank you for that. And at this point, let's see if we have any additional late check-ins. And if not, then we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up.
Oh, that's good. How fast are they expecting it to be?
I would have to go back and look at those specs again, but it's as fast as anything that we're getting now with I've got fiber optic here to the house, and I can't tell you what my speeds are, but they're fast enough for me to do the live stream and all the stuff that's going on in here. And they're certainly fast enough for that. And one of the things that one of the goals that they have with the satellite internet is low latency for online gaming. So in order to be able to play these first-person shooter online games, you can't have very much delay or latency in the data path. Because if you do, then it creates a situation where by the time you react to an event that's occurring, other people in the game have already seen it and reacted to it, and you're late to it, and so it's hard to score, it's hard to keep from getting killed, it's hard to compete. So the latencies have to be very, very low in order to do that. And with conventional satellite internet, those satellites are in geosynchronous orbit, 23,000 miles away from the Earth, and latency is in the neighborhood of 700 milliseconds. That's roughly 3/4 of a second. And in terms of playing a video game, that's an eternity. Whereas the latency that they're talking about with Starlink is in the 20 to 60 millisecond range. And so those are much better numbers. And those are the numbers, by the way, that we need in order for internet connectivity to work well with our linking system. So I don't want to tell you what the speeds are, or the bandwidth is, because I don't remember the number. And but I know it's a number that I'm comfortable with for my personal use. And I'm looking forward to closing my AT&T account and transitioning over to Starlink. Just as Joe had mentioned earlier, you know, the game of the introductory price, and this is your contract price for the next 12 months or whatever the period might be. And then as soon as that period is over, oh, we're gonna bump your rate by 30%, and that's what AT&T has done to me. Rather than call AT&T and say, hey, I need you to adjust this, I'm going to call AT&T when the time is right, and I'm going to say, hey, you had an opportunity to keep a loyal customer and you blew it, and I'm going to cancel the account. So that's a conversation that's going to be happening here very soon, and you know, it's just a game that many of these companies play in this subscriber area of service that I just don't appreciate. So, but that's just me. Do we have any other late check-ins to North Georgia GMRS Regional Net? One last call.
Omega 84, WRKK 629, GM in Chattanooga.
Chattanooga 84, Jim. Thank you, Jim, for checking in with us this evening. Do you have any service nightmare stories you'd like to share?
Well, the Starlink internet service is 100 megabits down and 40 megabits up. So, I looked that up while y'all were talking. I have tons of medical nightmares, but I won't get into that. But I just recently had my truck in for service. The air conditioner wasn't working, and the heater in the winter stopped working. And I said, you know, guys, my air conditioner's not working, and I think my car may need a thermostat because the heater will finally work after this one needle goes up to about the middle, but it stays down really low. take a break. I left my car on Tuesday. My son took me and we dropped it off, and I was in his car Wednesday, and I drove by about noon, and my car was still out in the parking lot. So I called and I said, hey, I'm just checking on my car. I just drove by and saw it out in the parking lot. Oh yeah, we put the thermostat in it. We're still working on the AC. We're letting it run out in the parking lot. Break. They finally finished it up, and I went back and picked it up, or went back and paid for it. And the air conditioner was overcharged, they said. And so instead of just releasing or reclaiming part of it, they reclaimed all of it and then charged me to fill it back up. And like all the cost of all the Freon, and they said they put a thermostat in it. But I'm 3 weeks out now, and the heat, I had to, we got that cool spot, and the heater doesn't still same problem. So I don't think they put a thermostat in it either. Right. Fortunately, the air conditioner has continued to work, so at least that's fair. But car service is always just like you've experienced. They will use every opportunity they can to manipulate, gouge, overcharge. I just talked to somebody tonight that went to Nashville. 5 hours of labor at a Shell service station was $705. That's $144 an hour. I will leave it at that, friends. Good evening to everybody. Good to hear everybody. This is Chattanooga 84. I'm signing off.
Well, thank you for that, Jim. And yeah, holy cow, yeah, shop rates are high. And I know that there's a lot of expenses that they've got to incur because, you've got the cost of the building, you've got the cost of the resources and stuff there, and the accessory staff that's there to handle the phones and the billing and all that stuff. Those people have to be. Those wages have to be covered as well. So it's not just the mechanic that you're paying for. But, it is. I mean, at some point, $144 an hour, when it costs that much for basic stuff, and then, but yet they're going to do a $29 oil change, and, you've got $20 worth of expense in oil plus a filter to do an oil change. And they're doing it for $29. That technician is it's taking them, time to do that, and they're certainly not getting $144 an hour for that. So it makes you wonder sometimes how they come up with some of these numbers, but I don't know. But finding a good shop is its own challenge, and I know that Andrew's shop is a great shop to take your vehicle to. It's inconvenient for me. It's just too far off of my beaten path. But there have been a handful of times that I have had my vehicle worked on by Andrew's shop over there in. I can't even think of the. I can't think of the name of the shop, and I can't think of the name of the town it's in. Andrew, are you still hanging in here? Can you chime in?
Oh yeah, I'm still here, and actually I got a comment about the oil change versus labor rate, and I could kind of maybe get a little bit more insight on that. But I'm actually in Roswell.
Roswell, that's what it. Yeah, Roswell. I kept wanting to say Alpharetta, and I thought that's not Alpharetta. That's not that far.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, Roswell. So, and what's the name of your shop? Is it Rick Case Hyundai?
Yep, that is correct.
All right. So, and if you're dealing with Andrew as the service writer, I know he's going to make every effort to not steer you in the wrong way. And I'm confident that if Andrew says that it got done, then it got done. Whether it's a thermostat or something more complicated than that. But you know, having an AC system overcharged and not performing makes perfect sense to me because I believe that results in the coils getting frosted up, and you no longer have the ability to move air through the coils. Does that sound about right, Andrew?
Yes, that can happen. Typically, overcharging is going to basically make the system pressures not work correctly. So you can get a freezing evaporator from that, but actually, believe it or not, you actually get a freezing evaporator more from a lower state of charge than being overcharged. Typically, overcharge is not going to make it work correctly because it can't do what's called the phase change correctly of the refrigerant from high pressure to low pressure.
Yep. Okay.
There's too much basically substance in the system. Whereas if the refrigerant is actually low, it can actually make it where it can't regulate it correctly, and it starts to freeze the evaporator.
And that makes perfect sense. Okay. And you had some additional comments with regard to shop rates and oil changes.
Okay, yes. There's a lot involved with this. And we are kind of the root of our own problem. And by that, I mean that we want all of these features and conveniences and whatnot in our vehicles. So we keep adding all these complexities. So when you have a technician nowadays that in some cases, like in ours, our shop foreman actually has a degree in accounting. And nowadays you're starting to have those type of people that have the training and knowledge capabilities, whereas if many years ago you could have people that did not have to have the training, expertise, and the ability to learn the training to be able to work on the cars. Now you're having to pull in a person that can garner a much higher wage because they actually really have to be able to know how to work on these cars. And that goes from what was mentioned earlier with rain sensors and lane departure systems that are built into windshields to the blind spot detection systems, which are radar and or laser actually done. So the person that's working on the car nowadays, and this is no discredit to anybody who worked on cars many years ago, they just have to have a much higher aptitude for technology. Now, flip side of that, when you do an oil change, you're going to have an oil change gentleman. His qualifications don't have to be nearly as high to be able to do an oil change. So, of course, that person is paid a lot less of a wage than a normal technician that may have to work with some of those very advanced systems. So there's kind of the difference between what your labor rate could be for a normal shop job for diagnosis and then a quick service, quick lube guy, basically.
Yeah, well, there you have it. An excellent explanation as to why there's a difference in the costs, because there's a difference in the skills and knowledge depending on the type of work that's being done. So, good stuff, Andrew. Thank you for that clarification. And as I mentioned, I have the utmost confidence in the integrity of the work that's done over at the shop at Rick Case Hyundai, especially if Andrew is your service writer. So bear that in mind, and maybe that's the price I pay for convenience by using a shop that I can walk to, that I have to actually walk if I use them. Probably wouldn't have happened if I'd gone to Andrew's shop. So who knows? But in any case, I think we've rambled on quite a long time. I'm going to be in trouble with Atlanta 60. But I'll take my lumps, and we had a good time. At least I did. I hope that all of you did as well. Net Control is going to go ahead and close this edition of North Georgia GMRS Net. I sure appreciate all of you hanging out with me this evening. We had a total of 44 check-ins, including myself, same as last week. Net Control will now be returning the repeaters to normal use. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Thanks again for allowing me to serve as your net control this evening. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514. I'll be clear. YouTube folks, thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight. This has been a blast. I had a lot of fun, and I am looking forward to doing this again next week.
Atlanta 911, WARS 515. I'm clear for the evening. You guys have a good weekend. See you next week.
All right. So let me press this button before I move out of the scene. Oops. And then I'm gonna.
And the guy that was who came into the net after the band rehearsal, I wish you'd hang around for a chat. WRMD 996, Atlanta 660.
Okay. We're gonna close that out. I'm gonna mute those channels. And I'm going to say thanks again, YouTube, for hanging out with me. It's been great. Really appreciate you folks viewing and just hanging out with me for this thing. So time to wrap this one up, and look forward to speaking with and hanging out with all of you again very soon. This is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514. Justin, and I'm clear. All right, that didn't work. Let me try that again. Let's see if I do that, and then I do that. Okay, so this should work. Thanks, folks. We'll talk to you later.